Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm creating this fun Thanksgiving card today using some products from Concord and Ninth. Now, I'm not American and I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but I do have friends who are, and I'll be able to give this card to one of them. So I'm using the freshly picked bundle from Concord and Ninth, which includes these dies and the cute little stamp set. So what I've done is I have gone ahead and die cut everything out off camera. There was a lot of die cutting and I didn't think you really wanted to watch that. So I've gone ahead and die cut everything. And I used scraps from my, I have basically this plastic container where I keep all of my cardstock scraps. And I just went through it and found some different colors that I could use. And that's what I've decided to use today. So I don't know the brands, I'm sorry to say. I don't know what cardstocks these are. I will say that this one in particular was awful to ink blend on. It was really horrible. It was quite porous and the ink would just sink straight in and wouldn't blend very nicely. So it wasn't the best. Luckily, this piece is mostly going to be covered up, so you're not going to see a great deal of it. But I'm just blending in with some Doe ink from Lawn Fawn, just to add some kind of shading around the edges and the bottom. And I'm going to use the same ink for the top parts, which I've cut from a slightly darker brown cardstock. And I'm just going to do the same thing, just kind of inking around the edges to give it a little bit more definition and dimension. So there are 5 main pieces to this barrel. There's the part you can see kind of in the top left there, which has the 2 die cut slits and the stitching detail. That is to create an interactive element to this card. It's got a little pull tab slider which works really, really nicely. So I don't need to worry about inking up that part of my barrel. Then you've got that kind of lighter piece which I already ink blended, and then the kind of rib pieces that go over the top. So just ink blending the last one now, and then I'm going to go ahead and assemble my barrel before I do everything else. So just adding some liquid glue to it, and it's very, very easy to put together. You don't need to be a genius to figure this one out. It all fits together so nicely. So I'm just attaching that bit on top of the base piece. And then I have the 2 kind of, I don't know what they are, belt type things that go around the middle of the barrel. You can tell my terminology is great today. So this one goes at the top, and then the kind of skinnier piece goes in the middle and wraps around the edge. Well, not wraps around the edge, but looks like it's wrapping around the edge of the barrel. And I just think it's a really nice detail. So that's my barrel complete. I'm just going to set that off to the side while I work on my pumpkins. So I have cut out all of my pumpkins from some orange cardstock. Again, I just went through my stash of scrap cardstock and picked out some different coloured oranges that I had, and just cut couple of pumpkins from each color, and you can see the little oval parts are what makes it a pumpkin. So you can use this as an apple or a pumpkin. Now I've got some pumpkin spice Lawn Fawn ink. I thought that was appropriate for my pumpkins, and I'm just going to use the same ink on all of them. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and blend all the way around the edge of each pumpkin and each of those little oval pieces, which are going to be stacked on top. I'm not going to show you all of that because obviously that would be really boring. But I just did exactly the same to all of them. I'm just using this really tiny little brush to do that. So once all of that's done, I can assemble my pumpkins. So I'm just kind of matching up the different colours with the same colours with the same pumpkins, if that makes sense. So obviously cut them out from different coloured cardstock, so I'm just trying to match them up again. And now I'm just going to add some liquid glue. And you can see how that's going to layer on top. And isn't that cute? A little pumpkin. So I've gone ahead and done all of those, and now I'm on to my leaves. So again, I've cut my leaves from some scraps of green cardstock in different colours, and I'm just going to go ahead and ink blend all of those and just do exactly the same thing. I'm not going to show it all on camera. Once all of that is done, I can attach these to the pumpkin. So you can see that little circle. It kind of looks a bit like a cherry, but it's a little circle, and that's exactly where you put your glue, and you can pop it into your pumpkin. And isn't it adorable? I just love these. I think they're so cute. So my pumpkins are ready. And now it's time to kind of start layering them into my barrel. So I'm just going to attach some liquid glue to the base of each one and kind of layer it in. I'm starting in the middle and working my way out to either edge. I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not. I'm pretty sure you probably could do a better job than I did. It was my first time trying this die, so I just kind of shoved everything in as best I could. In hindsight, I probably should have lifted them slightly higher, particularly the ones in the second row. I wish I'd kind of lifted them a little bit higher, but it still worked out fine. So you live and learn. So just as I say, just kind of placing them in and trying to put them in at different angles so that there's a little bit of interest. And I'm going to use 6 pumpkins. I have die cut 8. I'm going to use 6 for this part. I'm going to use 1 on my little pull tab, which I will show you in a minute. And then I'm going to have 1 sitting outside my barrel, just because why not? So just kind of figuring out where they're all going to go and how it's all going to fit in, and making sure that they're all going to kind of fit in there nicely into my little barrel. Just adding the last one now. And then once that's done, I can start trying to figure out my slider element. So there's my kind of barrel done. Oh, I should say I did add some glue to the leaves because I felt like they were a little bit frail and flimsy without a bit of glue and attaching them down. So I just did pop some glue on those. So here's the little slider piece. I've just cut it out of some white cardstock, and it's just got these 2 little tabs which you kind of fit in to the slider bit. And it works really nicely. I mean, it's like any of these sliders. The more you play with it, the better it gets. And I just think it's so cute. I really love this. So once I've kind of assembled that part, I'm just going to figure out where this pumpkin is going to go. So this is the pumpkin that someone's going to pull and use to pull the slider up. So I just wanted to make sure I had that in the kind of the right spot, figure out where it's going to go, line everything up. I'm not attaching anything down just yet. And then I'm going to add some glue to that pumpkin and pop him on the slider in exactly the right spot, so exactly where he needs to go. And he is sticking up a little bit higher than the other pumpkins, but I think that's okay because then obviously somebody will know that they need to pull him. I'm calling him, it's a pumpkin, but you know what I mean. So once that's done, I'm kind of going to figure out where my sentiment's going to go. So I just wanted to line everything up. Again, I'm not gluing anything down just yet. I'm just kind of using it for placement. And I'm going to use this one that says, "Hey there, pumpkin." So I'm just popping that where you're going to be able to read it nicely. And I've gone ahead and stamped that out with that same pumpkin spice ink. I've also stamped the little Pick Me from the stamp set using Noble Fir ink, which is, sorry, I didn't say that. Noble Fir was the ink that I used for my leaves of my pumpkin. So I've gone ahead and stamped that on the little leaf of the pumpkin so that somebody will know there's a little bit of an interaction there to be had, and they will hopefully realise that they can pull the little pumpkin up. And like I say, I just think this is such a sweet little die. I'm so happy with it. I really love it. And I'm looking forward to making some more with strawberries and apples as well. Once that's done, you can see where it says glue. So on that base piece and those stitching details, it tells you exactly where to put the glue. Isn't that clever? I think that's so amazing of Concord and Knight. They're really spelling everything out for you. So you put the glue there, and then you can kind of attach everything down. And that is my little barrel pretty much done. Isn't that so sweet? I just love this. I think it's amazing. And I couldn't help play with it a little bit. The only thing that's left is the handle. So it comes with 2 handle options. I've chosen the kind of longer handle today, and I was just trying to figure out where that's meant to sit. I did end up pulling out the packaging so I could have a look, and I figured out that kind of right-hand piece is almost meant to go kind of slightly behind the barrel, so it looks like it's tucked behind. So once I'd figured that out, I was able to glue it all together. So there is another little piece that you can die cut out. So I've just cut these out from some grey cardstock. So the actual handle is from a lighter grey and then a darker grey for the kind of piece, the little piece that goes in the middle. And now I'm just attaching it with some liquid glue. So trying to tuck that little end piece around the back of the barrel, and I'll use some glue on that to make sure it sticks nicely there. Just a little touch of glue. And that's it. So it did take a little while because obviously it's quite textured with all the different layers. I did want to make sure everything was stuck down nicely, but just that's easily done. And then I'm just going to decide where my little pumpkin is going to go on the front. add a little touch of glue and stick him down. And isn't that cute? I absolutely adore this. I think it's so stunning. Really, really lovely. Once my barrel is done, I had to decide what to do with it. I hadn't quite got that far. I knew I wanted to make something out of this die set because I just couldn't resist, but I hadn't kind of figured out what I was going to do with the rest of it. So I had watched Christine Werner, sorry, I'm not sure, and she had made a card using this die set. She did one with strawberries, and she had a kind of background panel that she had created using some of the Concord and Ninth cardstock and ink. Now I've done slightly differently. I have used the Aqua Sky cardstock, and I'm using Peacock Ink and then Midnight Ink from Concord and Ninth. And all I'm doing is kind of creating a bit of a gradient effect on my cardstock. So using it at the bottom of what's going to be the bottom of the card, and just blending on a little bit of colour so that it creates a bit of a gradient. So darkest at the bottom and then lightest at the top. So I'm not actually adding any ink to the top part of the card. I'm kind of going about halfway up. So once I was happy with the level of dark ink that I had used, I just went back in with the Peacock just to blend out that kind of transition between the two and make it a little bit smoother. Then once I had done that, I took out the Autumn Hues stamp set from Concord and Ninth that I got recently, and I heat embossed a sentiment that says Happy Thanksgiving on it. I did this with some gold heat embossing ink, and I just thought that that was a kind of nice fall touch to it. Then I went ahead and attached my my pumpkin barrel down. I used foam tape for this. I initially only put one layer on. I did end up peeling this up very, very carefully and adding a second layer, just because I felt that the extra height helped with that pull tab movement. So you can see here I've only got the one layer on there, but I do off camera go ahead and peel that up and very carefully add another layer, just to make it a little bit easier to grab hold of that little pumpkin. Once that's done, I took some orange cardstock. Now I believe this is MFT cardstock. I will try and find the colour for you and link it below. And I took another one of those Autumn Hues sentiments and stamped it inside. And then I'm just attaching my card front with some Tomboy dot adhesive. This is nice and sticky and it will hold it nice and firmly. I thought about using liquid glue, but my cardstock was a little bit warped from the heat embossing, so I thought that this would keep it nice and flat. And that's it. I really liked how this turned out. I like the orange cardstock in the background. I think it works really nicely with my pumpkins and that little sentiment inside that says, "Let's be thankful." I hope you enjoyed this one. Please do give it a thumbs up if you did. Please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. And please do subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you come back again. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.